Hey everyone. I've had tons of emails over the last couple of days about patients and families that are not going to be able to pay their medical aids. And it's of grave concern, obviously. As a non-profit organization, firstly, I wonder if we'll ever be able to help everybody. We've got over 5,000 members, so having all those people not able to pay their medical aids would really just be a tragedy. But aside from that, my bigger concern, I suppose, is in the event that we are not able to fundraise to cover their medical aid premiums, we'll never be able to cover the cost of their treatments. If you take into consideration that an average rare disease patient's treatments cost probably 3 to 4 times what a medical aid premium costs a month. So you're paying 8,000 or 9,000 Rand a month for your premium, but you're receiving 40 to 50, sometimes 400,000 Rand a month in benefit. It's a really, really big concern. Ethically, I also have major concerns about patients who are currently stable on treatment and that being put into jeopardy because of the tough economic climate in all aspects of all governments' work at the moment. We see massive sort of provisions being set aside for small businesses, and banks are coming to the party, insurance companies are coming to the party. Everyone's really trying their best to make provisions, etc., during this economic downturn due to COVID-19, and we're not seeing much relief coming forward in the forms of assistance to NGOs to keep us going through this time. But that aside, I'm not seeing anything happening from a medical aid perspective either. We have engaged, we have seen some medical aids have put certain things in place. I know some of them have offered the opportunity for patients to use their medical savings account to pay their premiums. Other medical aids have said that you can take some sort of a payment holiday, but during that payment holiday you will not be covered. That's really not suitable for any of our patients. And I suppose my concern is that the medical savings allocation is also not going to be a viable option, because it's selection bias to some extent, because most of the vulnerable and chronic patients in that community or on medical aids would generally have limited medical savings available to them. So it really is a massive problem. We have sent out a mail today via our email. If you are a registered member, you should have got that as a patient, asking you to please complete a form. And that form is really in a risk analysis survey for us to understand what the economic impact is across our community. But we have also emailed the Department of Health as well as Council for Medical Schemes. Many of you won't know that medical aids are sitting with a 25% liquidity reserve. That is billions and billions of rands that are sitting in reserves waiting for a rainy day. And I am imploring the Department of Health as well as Council for Medical Schemes to use this opportunity to release some of those funds to help those that are exceptionally vulnerable in our communities. I'm not only specifically referring to rare disease patients. Obviously, that's where I'm lobbying for, because that's obviously the space that we're in. But I would imagine chronic patients across the board would need this sort of assistance. So I'm doing absolutely everything I can from our side. If you have received that survey, please do complete it. Council for Medical Schemes has come back to us asking us specifically to provide them with quantifiable data, which is what we are now trying to do with that survey, where we're asking, have you been able to pay your premiums? Will you be able to pay your premiums? Does your monthly medication cost more than what your premiums do? But aside from that, I'm asking you, please, if you have any funds available, I know we are all in a massive economic pinch, but if you do have any funds available and there's any opportunity for you to contribute, please, I'm begging you, consider making a contribution to our COVID-19 fund that we have started on Give and Gain. This is essentially to help us try and make sure that the patients who are stable on very expensive treatments have no interruption to their access. We will put together a really strict application process that makes sure that we are assisting those that need it the most. I don't know if we're going to manage to get it right, to be honest with you. I'm feeling pretty desperate at this point, because I know end of the month is coming, and I've already seen someone short paid their medical aid by 32 Rand and received a suspension notice. Someone else I know sent an email to their medical aid saying, we have a problem, we will not be able to pay, but we can make payments in the middle of the month. And the medical aid's response was, you need to pay by the 6th, alternatively you won't have cover. I know someone else raised the point that they don't have a ATM nearby to be able to, or a payment portal nearby to be able to make a payment earlier. Medical aid said it's not their problem. So this isn't me, taking out frustrations on medical aids per se. I realize that they also have their own obligations to meet, but I'm exceptionally worried about our patients. If you look at the economic impact of stopping this community in its entirety, if you take chronic medication accounts for a massive percentage of pharma sales. And, any disruption to that supply would also result in further economic impact and job losses in that area. From a patient's perspective, you've got to consider that the cost of getting them back to being stable. So if you just disrupt all their treatments now, and you've got a patient who, say, hasn't had a seizure in a couple of months, or has been relatively stable with their condition, and now all of a sudden they stop all forms of treatment, that will have its own economic impact, and the cost of having to get them back to stability is also going to have to come from somewhere. If you think of all the patients that would then need to be transferred over to the public health system, that's also going to be a massive impact. Our public health system is already under-resourced and overburdened. How on earth are they going to now account for a mass majority of really ill patients that need expensive treatments and complex treatments? How will that be accounted for? So these are some of the things that we're grappling with at the moment. This fund that we have set up will be set aside specifically to help us tackle some of these issues. We really need your support. Any support is welcome. If anybody would like to contact me with regards to any ideas that they might have, if there's corporates out there and this is something that appeals to their line of business, if there's analysts out there or legal opinions with regards to whether using the medical aid reserves is possible and should be considered, please, I'm begging you to reach out. If ever there's a time for a community to stick together, it's now. And for all of those out there that are concerned about how they are going to keep on medical aid and keep their cover going, please know that we as Rare Diseases South Africa are doing absolutely everything that we can to try and assist through this really, really difficult time. So yeah, please get in touch. And if you can, please consider making a donation, however small. Every cent makes a difference. Thanks, guys.